Meetings have happened yesterday, and most of them uh, had reports were given, but not many decisions were conveyed. So it was mostly procedural conclusions were adopted than any substantial decision, which means there was not much agreement on various topics. We'll go into that in detail one by one. But overall, I think it was a very big disappointment yesterday because even the UNFCCC executive secretary, he said he's disappointed that the parties could not agree on almost 90% of the issues which were presented before all these subsidiary bodies. So I think that's a significant statement coming from UNFCCC. Secondly, yesterday, it was Agriculture and Adaptation Day. That was a specific theme which was given by COP27 president. So there were 8 events on agriculture and 3 events on adaptation. And interestingly, there was a new session which was titled as, in fact, it was an initiative launched with the name Climate Responses for Sustaining Peace Initiative. So this was very interesting because linking climate responses with peace. I think this is a first initiative, and that initiative was launched yesterday after a meeting. So the approach of this initiative is basically looking at the confluence of conflict, climate change, natural disasters, and environmental degradation is a growing and pressing challenge, further spurring in insecurity and vulnerability. Exacerbating the existing fragilities across the globe. So this, I think, looks very valid because across the world, as disasters are increasing, there are shortages of natural resources. There is a lot of conflict. Of course, we know man-animal conflict where animals, which are wildlife, which should have been in forests, they are coming out to the agriculture fields or into the villages or settlements around. So this kind of conflict is one, but within the human societies, there is a lot of conflict over resources, especially water shortages, water, land, and the overall economic conflict which we are seeing. So I think this initiative, Climate Responses for Sustaining Peace initiative, is trying to look at how to address this problem. And of course, there was a ministerial session on adaptation, basically looking at how to bring specific measures for comprehensive monitoring process. Adaptation, adaptation fund, and all those issues. How do you monitor the entire process is one. And second, raising additional funds for adaptation initiatives and support needed for national action plans, developing the action plans, because many small countries, at least 120 to 130 countries, they require support to develop national action plans. So this ministerial session on adaptation looked into that. And agriculture, there were a number of sessions, as I mentioned. We'll go one by one. One session was basically on innovative tools by the private sector in agriculture and food systems. So this again means that private sector is being involved more through in the name of technological innovation and within the domain of climate smart agriculture and food initiatives. So this session discussed on how investment can be delivered in innovative technologies through highlighting the role of private sector is a major issue. Somewhere I think these innovative technologies include, it was not mentioned, but basically looking at the participation and the kind of participation. So these innovative technologies include genetically gene edited technologies, artificial intelligence, digitization. So I think all of this are part of these innovative technologies. Then there was another session on finance for climate smart agriculture and de-risking the agriculture sector. So this was chaired by IFAD head, and they discussed how to bring finance to this climate smart agriculture. The climate smart agriculture, as I mentioned, is almost similar to what a World Economic Forum is saying as the Great Reset or the revision of agriculture. So these are all similar kind of initiatives, but with different nomenclature. So climate smart agriculture is also trying to bring innovative technologies, and that's what smart means. And they want to de-risk the schemes to promote rural and agricultural finance to increase affordable finance for smallholder farmers. So this session, we have not seen any documents on that, but whatever has been shared with the media and other sources, we could find that they are discussing how finance can be brought for the climate smart agriculture overall. Then there was this session called AIM for climate. So AIM means Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate. AIM for C. So that's how it's written. This actually was launched last year at COP26. And the ministerial was held yesterday on 12th November in Egypt. There, I think they are trying to build the leading role for UAE, United Arab Emirates. In fact, last year also UAE has taken the lead role in this, and it is being declared as a joint initiative by the United States and the UAE that seeks to address climate change and global hunger by uniting participants to significantly increase investment in and other support for climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation over 5 years. So between 2021 and 2025, they are going to work on how to increase investment for climate smart agriculture. So these two, this is a ministerial, I think this is more of a government level initiative. And the earlier session which we discussed was mostly by international institutions like International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, is another multilateral institution. So I think these are two distinct initiatives, but looking at the similar goal of promoting climate smart agriculture. And yesterday, again on agriculture, there was this discussion, Coronavia joint work on agriculture. Coronavia is a place where this joint work program on agriculture was developed. And this is part of UNFCCC COP 26 and COP active, negotiations. So the aim for sea climate is a initiative by the governments, and it is independent of a UNFCCC process. But this KJWA, Coronavia Joint Work on Agriculture, is a UNFCCC activity. So here they had a lot of discussions, but they have not come to any agreement, and that's very worrying because everyone has 3 days back they had a session on this, and everyone said we need to look at the country level context whenever we are talking of a solution. And so there is a divergence between developed and developing country perspectives. And incidentally, they have removed agroecology from the text. So basically, I think this KJWA is again going in the same direction as climate smart agriculture initiatives, which are being built around COP process. So every time there are sessions on agriculture, so these multilateral institutions and other institutions organize similar workshops. I think basically to influence the delegates who are sitting on KJWA process. So here I think criticism has been made, and a lot of NGOs have pointed out that KJWA is not discussing actual agriculture issues of Africa, Asia, Latin America, and not even the carbon emitting industrial agriculture in US and European Union, especially when carbon emissions are discussed. The animal farming, this stall animal farming, which is a huge industry. Meat industry is a huge industrial scale initiative. The sector in US and other countries, that has not been brought into discussion in KJWA. So ultimately, so in part of solutions, the agroecological aspect, the traditional agriculture, and the skill set of this Asia or African farmers has not been brought into discussion. So this is a concern which has been raised by civil society yesterday as well. So there were other sessions which are organized by civil society on these aspects, even day before yesterday. So they are pointing out to this lacuna in KJWA process, which is part of UNFCCC. So there are other sessions, but I'm not going into that. But very, very interesting and very disappointing is the subcommittee meetings under the subsidiary bodies. As I mentioned, everyone was disappointed because there was no conclusion and no strong recommendation has emerged, especially on issues like long-term finance. As if you remember, 3-4 days back also we discussed this long-term finance, and the committees were discussing on definitions, metrics, how to measure, how to ensure that the flow continues. So all that happened, but in that committee, ultimately they said discussions will to continue next. So either it will be next week or it will go into COP28. So that means countries which are expecting long-term finance from this COP process I think they have to wait for another year at the least. And then this new collective quantified goal on climate finance. This was again discussed, the $100 billion goal of Paris Agreement was under pressure for revision. So Africa, Asia, and other countries have been saying we need to have a new collectively quantified goal. But I think nothing emerged out of it. So again, the conclusion is that discussions will continue. Then the matters relating to standing. This is another place where some of the discussion on finance was happening. Even here, it was agreed that discussions will continue. Then the important aspect of loss and damage, funding arrangements for loss and damage. I think this everyone was hoping that something will emerge out of this. But even in that, they concluded that discussions will continue. So I think the first week of COP27, which gave a lot of hope of implementation. They said this is a implementation COP. So together for implementation was the slogan given by the COP27 president. But if you look at this 1 week of work and the text which almost was finalized, in none of the texts there is a concrete step forward, and whatever has been agreed was mostly on procedure. So how to move forward, what kind of procedure has to be adopted. I think on that there was some kind of agreement, but overall yesterday was very disappointing in that sense. So next week again it looks very gloomy because based on this. But I think some seasonal observers who have been seeing this COP process for this last 10, 15 years, they said this is what happens in the first week. And next week, once Monday starts, now they hurry to come up with something concrete comes up, and they are hoping that next week is going to be more fruitful, and which responds to the implementation expectations of COP27. Yesterday there was a press conference, almost a session, of course, by warrior moms. So mothers, who call themselves warriors, they have now same name in different countries. So I think it's a organization which has multiple branches in different countries, including India. So yesterday they addressed a press conference and put forward the demand that world leaders have to put children's health and their right to a clean and healthy environment first during COP27 negotiations. So this demand was put forward. So there are a number of events, which happened in the last 1 week, which are similar to this kind of session. So some civil society was focusing on human rights, some are on agriculture, some are on fossil fuel. So you might remember yesterday and day before we were discussing that there was this strong demand coming for fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. That means they are looking for a treaty where fossil fuel usage will reduce rather than increase. So such kind of demand generation activity is being organized along with the COP27 process. But not only civil society, I think even the corporate lobby, the lobbying organizations, and the individuals associated with those activities in several sectors, they are also there in COP27, and they are trying to again influence the process to basically protect their economic and business interests. So I think that is the underlying theme which is going on. This is the overt efforts by civil society. So this conflict, this between this overt demand, public interest based demand generation, and this inert, or underground process of lobbying for different, corporate supported solutions. I think that is happening within COP27, and those are reflected in government negotiation positions, and as some, that corporate desk and two other organizations have brought out, some of the delegates have entered the government delegations and started influencing the positions of the governments on some of the issues related to fossil fuel, reducing fossil fuel, and some of this drastic decisions which are expected and which are not coming. So I think we need to be conscious of this kind of interest, the struggle between the different stakeholders, and ultimately, if nothing emerges, we can see that that is still a balance between the ayes and no naysayers on climate change actions. But then I think we also need to see whether even I think this COP27 is trying to at least look at Paris Agreement and trying to develop an implementation plan for COP15 agreement, Paris Agreement commitments. Even though they are very inadequate, everyone agrees that these commitments, will not ensure limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. We might cross 2 degrees, but still, because of these differences and lot of wrangling with the current entrenched interests in country economies, I think people are expecting at least there will be some agreement on what has been committed at Paris. But the first week shows that even that may not be a possibility. And so yesterday, John Kerry, he addressed, he's a US climate envoy. He addressed a press conference, and I think he spoke for more than an hour. But interestingly, he confirmed Indonesia would announce its Just Energy Transition Partnership. So this is a partnership which is being pushed by at G20, and people are expecting that India is being offered to be part of this Just Energy Transition Partnership as an incentive, but whether India will join it, because once it joins, I think it means it has to review some of its positions, especially the commitment it has given as part of national determined contributions, NDCs. So I think that is again being discussed about, and people are hoping that Indonesia is there, India might be there, and India is going to be the chair. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is going to chair that G20 session, which is going to start maybe tomorrow. So G20 has a very good, influential links with the COP process. So we need to see how this G20 summit is going to, either complement or is it going to contradict the process which is happening at COP, which sometimes appears to be very progressive, but sometimes it looks very static. So I think that we need to see. And interestingly, he said on loss and this is a big statement on loss and damage. John Kerry said he had heard the cries of vulnerable countries like Pakistan, but a new facility that's just not happening, as US and others fear legal structure tied to liability. So this was again mentioned on the very first day, 6th November and 7th November discussion. This loss and damage has been included in the COP process after heavy pressure from Africa, Pakistan, and other small island nations. But the developed countries, especially the historically polluting countries, they do not seem to be enthused about it, and there may not be any progress on loss and damage, as John Kerry confirmed yesterday. So he said again that's just not happening. So that means nothing is going to happen because US and others fear a legal structure tied to liability. So this liability polluter pays principle, I think they think it is going to have a legal connotation, and then that will mean that they have to keep on paying uh, reparations or whatever compensation for the loss and damage. So loss and damage may not go up to implementation phase is what we are seeing from this press conference by John Kerry. And if you look at the conclusive reports and the discussions of different subsidiary bodies, they show that loss and damage may not be a part of the implementation plan, if at all. But we'll see next week because hopes are pinned on the COP27 president, because he comes from a country which is not part of this developed world. So they may understand the need and the urgency of loss and damage. So we need to see the pressure is going to work on that next week. In terms of new words, we again looked at this cover decision. So now next week we are going to hear this more and more. Then I thought we might look at it. Cover decision is talked about in all the COP meetings. So what does it mean? So it means it is a statement or a report which tries to include the various interests or the various negotiated positions. And this document basically is a consensual document. Basically, all the parties agree that, okay, this is what is going to happen. So that's a cover decision, and These cover decisions are eagerly waited at the end of the COP meeting. So on 18th November evening, maybe depending on the agreement or depending on the progress of the text, I think it might be cover decisions can be released on 18th November late night or on 19th November. So we are going to monitor those cover decisions and see if something is of very importance for our understanding. So as I mentioned, Coronavia dialogue on agriculture, they have removed agroecology from the text. So once that is removed, we are wondering whether this dialogue is going to think of any sustainable farming with small and marginals as the focal point of such initiatives. So as of now, there is no hope on that. And in fact, now the Coronavia dialogue, the delegates are struggling to agree on how to conduct the negotiations. So not about the goal, not about the objective, but about the process of negotiations itself is now, there are divergent views on such issues. And then the next step of integrating agriculture into UN climate agreement. I think this is again a big task which so far has not been done. Now, the aim for climate, AIM 4C, again has ignored the biggest carbon emitting section within modern industrial agriculture, and that is industrial meat and agrochemical interests. So there is again a valid and appropriate pressure for this aim for C to include sustainable methods of agriculture production. Then the Greenpeace, they did an analysis, they released the analysis. So they say the richest, historically most polluting in countries are blocking progress at COP27 on establishing the loss and damage finance facility that is urgently needed by developing countries. So progress at COP27, like last year, is being blocked by rich countries. Basically on the loss and damage finance facility. So this proposal to establish a separate loss and damage finance facility was made by developing countries, but which was not agreed by developed countries. So amidst this wrangling, Greenpeace says the progress has been blocked. Then a news which came from outside COP is Germany is going to pull out of the 1994 Energy Charter Treaty. So apparently this Energy Charter Treaty, which was signed in 1994, it basically allows utility firms to file cases against governments if they make changes to energy policies. So companies, or distributor companies or generation companies in energy, which are private, they can sue governments about the change in energy policies and how it is going to impact on them. So this treaty is about that. So Germany has pulled out of it. So it's there is an expectation that several other European Union states are also going to follow Germany. Now there was this observation that loss and damage agenda item which was included in the provisional agenda of COP27. They are not elaborated on how to determine liability or payments for the harms of human-caused climate change. So I think this is another significant observation, which is what developed countries are afraid of. So they don't want a determination of liability, because once it is determined, they expect that there will be pressure on them to ask for finances. And the big news yesterday was there was a massive climate justice protest was organized inside a blue zone of COP27. So I have shown you the map of this venue, where the blue zone is where all these members, delegates sit and discuss. The different committees, subsidiary bodies are there. So this demonstration by civil society was basically to pressurize delegates to take action. So there have been number of demands. They held placards. They hold banners proclaiming different slogans. But the demands include, as before, they were looking at fossil fuel reduction or complete ban on that, and then various other demands, including loss and damage. So those are the demands which were given yesterday at the protest site. So in fact, this protest could have happened outside, but for Egyptian authoritarian government, because they don't allow activists to hold any protests in the streets of Egypt. So so that's why this protest took inside the UN venue. So this is a UN venue. COP27 is a UN venue and under the control of UN. So they could organize that protest. But yesterday, when Joe Biden was addressing the plenary, four people, I think they stood up and displayed a banner asking for a ban on fossil fuels. So these four, they had a COP clearance, basically police clearance. And after that demonstration, their police clearance was withdrawn. So once that police clearance is withdrawn, I think those people can't stay in Egypt. They have to fly out. Otherwise, they'll be arrested for illegal entry into Egypt. So on one hand, there is this huge protest going on, and on the other hand, yesterday and day before, people who demonstrated against U.S. president and some other activity, they were sent out of the venue and also the country itself. So this jostling for democracy, voice, space, and holding demonstrations is continuing. But right now, this means whatever has happened yesterday as part of the demonstration, it has given a lot of confidence, but we are not sure if it is going to help in achieving something. The news, says, of course, this winter, the global temperatures are increasing. So it is increasing in Europe, it is increasing in China as well. So China, the record, it is a record temperature rise and very high temperature of 35 degrees centigrade in winter. Usually it is snowing or it is very cold, maybe around 15 degrees. but now it has become very hot. And interestingly, some people were happy because their electricity bills will not be, they need not pay any bills because they don't consume electricity because of the warmth. So otherwise, they should have a temperature controlled home where hot steam goes around and the tubes. So this energy bill has reduced is what these some of the Chinese were happy about. But then I don't know that it can be a vicious cycle of expenditure which can come in different ways. And they might have reduced the power bill, but they might their expenditure might increase because of this buying water or a shortage of water, food, and cost of living crisis. Now, as part of transport, this battery-driven vehicles have been talked about, but these batteries require cobalt, and 72% of the cobalt is mined from Congo. Congo is a African nation, so mining for rare minerals will destroy more environments and lives than it saves. I think this is the statement which was given by a few people. So overall, I think there were people were asking for an overhaul of the world economic systems. So they want the entire economic system to change because there is this dichotomy where some people who are already becoming billionaires out of the current economy, they are not talking of economic change, but they are talking of innovations and technologies. So basically talking of net zero. On the other hand, people who can't pay all this, they are talking of overthrowing the current world economic growth. So I think each one of us need to look at this detail. Then the Indian International Energy Agency, they released a critical minerals policy tracker. So they have collected data from 25 countries and they have included 200 policies and regulations as part of this library. Now, yesterday I thought this statement was very bold by Lisipriya Kangujam. She is a 11-year-old girl from India. She is there in COP27. So she has been meeting people, talking around. So she says many international media took my interviews at COP27 every day, but not a single Indian news media took me to interview. They are busy in Indian pavilion and following Indian politicians. They told me if you want to talk about PM Modi's initiatives, then we can take an interview. So this is, I think, is a kind of carrot where this girl is being asked to praise or talk about PM Modi initiatives rather than she getting interviewed by the media. So this media, government, and industry linkage seems to be pretty strong in Indian delegation, if you can see from this. Then there is another girl, she said, Amanda Ellis, she said, I'm 17 now and I have been coming to COP since 14 years. Each year I'm less optimistic with the UNFCCC process and more about civil society engagement. So she says we need more youth representatives on national delegation. So national delegations usually are gray-haired bureaucrats or academicians or simply basic, professionals. But here we are seeing that this young girl is saying that she does not, she wants youth to be represented more. So now I think, yeah, as I mentioned, now there is expectation that at least COP27 will develop a implementation plan on the promises made so far, rather than expecting higher promises. Now let me allow what I share every day. This person, Roger Hallam, I think he has been tracking climate change, and he says people are angry because they don't want their kids to die, and lack of action on climate change. I think we are going to face mass starvation in the next 10 years, and societies will collapse, and a possible extinction of the human race is what he has been saying, and but still, I think there is no realization across the globe on the seriousness of the problem. And right now, we are seeing this seriousness because this is a picture of Europe. Yesterday, 12th November, you can see the date here. So it is very hot, and this is supposed to be November, a winter period is entering. By December, it will be much more cold. That's a normal way, but they're saying it is very hot in Europe, like in China. So again, still there is no realization of the seriousness of the problem. So George Monbiot, he is a politician, but he gradually became a writer and a thinker. So he says by continuing to extract oil, coal, or gas, governments of the most powerful countries are putting the survival of the fossil fuel industry above the survival of life on Earth. So we need to turn that around. So he says, governments are still thinking the interest of oil and gas companies is very important rather than the survival of life on the earth. So that is what we need to turn it around by increasing the pressure on the governments, and that will happen through awareness and the kind of awareness activities which we are taking up like this has to happen. Now, in the last week, climate activists, they targeted private jets, including scientists. You can see here, these are scientists who took part in the actions all over the Europe and America, and they locked access to private jets. So they say these private jets are adding to the pollution, just like private cars, private bikes. So private jets, aeroplanes are a problem. So they want a ban on them, and so that there is aviation sector can reduce the carbon emissions. So these are the pictures of the demonstration, and yesterday, which was held at a Blue Zone in COP27 premises. This is a picture, interesting picture of how the tree has formed itself, as almost like a human being running around with tentacles. So this, as I mentioned, International Energy Agency, they have developed this critical minerals tracker. So what is happening where this is a tracking mechanism. So you can see that how each country was, is a leader or one of the major mines are there. So aluminium can be found in Australia, Brazil, and Canada. Copper in Brazil, Canada, Colombia. Graphite, lithium, is in Australia, Brazil, Canada, European Union, Japan, and United States. So this each mineral has been tracked, and where the mining is there, what are the regulations with regard to that has been done by this critical minerals tracker. Now, this is a global stock take which happened in UNFCCC. Yesterday, they have closed this process completely. Global stock take began in June 2022, building on what has happened in COP26. So this gives a overall picture of what a global stock is about. So this spans 2021, 2022, and 2023. So this current global stock take negotiations are about this 3-year period, and subsequent years they will take up later. So here you can see how technical dialogue TD1, TD2, TD3 will lead to synthesizing report, and this joint contact group will be discussing further on what this technical dialogue comes up with. So these technical dialogues will be based on IPCC assessment report 6, sixth IPCC report, and also it looks at the synthesis reports of these assessment reports and synthesis reports. So overall, ultimately, it has to lead to global stock take. Is basically about information collection on commitments and the status of the environment, atmosphere, and various other things. And based on that, a declaration has to happen. So yesterday they closed the global stock take negotiations. So we need to wait for the report, which might be shared soon. So this is the picture of the press conference by the warrior moms. They said kids first at COP27. So this lady is from India, Dr. Bhavrin Kandari. So different ladies from different countries. This design of the stage was interesting because they wanted this tree with branches. This is a health pavilion where World Health Organization organized a few discussions on how health needs to be protected. Yesterday, this was interesting because at Gandarbal in India, in Kashmir, Gandarbal is one district, and the district magistrate, he banned electric heat appliances. This is a winter time and Kashmir becomes cold. So most of the homes, they use electric appliances to have heat, But then this collector thought by using these appliances, it will create a load on the electricity supply system, and there will be frequent outages. So he has completely banned it. So that means these people cannot have access to electricity as the most efficient source of energy to adapt themselves to cold conditions. So if these kind of local actions keep coming up without reference to the climate change, I think people are going to suffer more. So I thought this is interesting for that reason. And this is again Delhi Pollution Control Committee public notice. They are giving scenarios, poor, very poor, severe, and severe plus scenarios of air pollution, and they're giving a health advisory to citizens. What to do when depending on the stages of air quality index in Delhi. So again, if you look at the health advisory in all the three or four scenarios, they say avoid outdoor physical activities. So this means the kids or the women or children cannot go out because of all the four situations which keep coming up in the next 2-3 months. That means there will be disruption of economy. There can be disruption in productivity. So this link between environmental degradation and the economic disruption, I think it's pretty clear by this health advisory. So there is this new study by the University College of London. They looked at 750,000 samples of 18,000 insect species. And what they are saying is because of this global warming and greenhouse gases and pollution, there will be a drastic impact on global insect population. And if the insects go, the pollination process, which is more naturally done with the help of insects, that will also come down by 75%. So that means the food production is going to be affected, and there will be a large-scale disruption of that. So this is the one route of climate impact which can have a cascading effect on food production. So if people think that, okay, my food will come from somewhere else, so I'm not worry, they should know that this is a global problem and a global phenomenon. So this is a statement of presidency consultations. As we mentioned, there were a lot of consultation decisions on special needs and circumstances, and these are all related to different articles of Paris Agreement. So this statement, this program was released yesterday, and COP27 president announced that this is a bold method of sharing information as a part of the transparency. So they are saying by doing this, COP27 has adhered to transparency principles which have been declared at the beginning of COP27. So maybe I think these decisions were not released earlier, but then this looks more like a placating kind of step rather than a inbuilt integrated transparency process within the COP. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or clarifications are required. నిన్న 12 నవంబర్ నాడు ఈ COP27 సమావేశంలో జరిగిన ఏవైతే విషయాలు ఉన్నాయో అవి ఇక్కడ మనం ఈరోజు 13 నవంబర్ నాడు మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నాము. ఈరోజు ఆదివారం కనుక రేపు ఈరోజు అక్కడ COP సమావేశం ఏమీ జరగట్లేదు. అంటే రేపు మనం రివ్యూ చేయము. అయితే ఇది ఇప్పుడు చేస్తున్నదేమో నిన్నటి సమావేశపు వివరాలు, అక్కడ ఏం జరిగింది అనేది మనం దాన్ని సమీక్ష చేస్తున్నాం. సో నిన్న చాలా మటుకు ఒక వారం అయింది కనుక కాప్ సమావేశం మొదలై అనేక కమిటీలు వాళ్ళ యొక్క రిపోర్ట్లు ప్లీనరీస్లో పెట్టడం జరిగింది. అయితే ఈ ప్లీనరీల అంటే వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన రిపోర్ట్లు చూస్తే ఏవి కూడా ఒక పరిపూర్ణతకు చేరినట్లు లేవు. ఎక్కువ శాతము ఏవో కొన్ని రికమెండేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి. అవి కూడా ప్రొసీజరల్, అంటే ఏ పని ఏ విధంగా చేయాలనే దాని మీద కొంత అంగీకారం ఉంది, కానీ అసలు ఆ విషయంలో ఎట్లాంటి నిర్ణయాలు తీసుకున్నారనే దాని మీద ఎట్లాంటి పురోగతి లేదు. ఇది స్పష్టంగా కనపడుతుంది. ఇది అసలు పురోగతి లేదు అని అందరికీ ఒక పెద్ద డిసప్పాయింట్మెంట్. అందరూ నిరాశ పడ్డారు. ఎస్పెషల్లీ యుఎన్ఎఫ్సిసి ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ సెక్రటరీ ఆయన చెప్పారు, అసలు మీరు పార్టీలు ఒక నిర్ణయానికి రాలేకుంటే ఇన్ని రకాల సమస్యల మీద మీరు ఏ ఒక్క దాని మీద కూడా నిర్ణయం రాకుంటే ఇది మరి మనము ఈ సమావేశం ఎట్లా ముందుకు తీసుకెళ్తామని ఆయన కొంత తన చెప్పడం జరిగింది నిన్న ప్రెస్ కాన్ఫరెన్స్లో. అయితే ఈ వివిధ కమిటీల్లో 3-4 కమిటీల్లో చూస్తే ఎక్కువ శాతం ఇప్పుడు ఈ కాప్లో అమలు మీద దృష్టి పెడుతున్నామని ప్రకటించారు మొదట్లోనే. అంటే ఆ ప్యారిస్ అగ్రిమెంట్లో అంగీకరించిన ఏవైతే లక్ష్యాలు ఉన్నాయో ఆ లక్ష్యాలను అమలు చేయడానికి, ఏ విధంగా అమలు చేయడానికి ఈ COP27 ఒక నిర్దిష్ట మార్గము ఏర్పాటు చేస్తుందని ప్రకటన చేయడం జరిగింది. కానీ ఇప్పుడు ఈ వారం రోజుల పురోగతి లేకపోవడం చూస్తే అసలు రేపు వచ్చే వారంలో ఇంకా ఏమన్నా ఆశ మిగిలిందా, రేపు పొద్దున అసలు అమలు ప్రణాళిక ఏదన్నా దీని నుంచి వస్తుందా అనేది అనుమానాస్పదంగా కనపడుతుంది ఇప్పుడైతే. అందులో ప్రధానంగా నిధుల మీద, ఫైనాన్స్ మీద చాలా మందికి ఆశలు ఉన్నాయి. ఎక్కువగా ఆఫ్రికా దేశాలు, తర్వాత చిన్న ద్వీపకల్ప దేశాలు, వీళ్ళకి ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళు ఇప్పటికే నష్టం చూస్తున్నారు. ఆర్థిక నష్టము చాలా పెరిగిపోయింది ప్రకృతి వైపరీత్యాల వలన, ఈ క్లైమేట్ చేంజ్ తో వచ్చిన ఉత్పాతాల వల్ల. మరి ఆ నిధుల గురించి ఈ వారం రోజులలో అయితే ఏది ఒక ప్రాథమిక దశ కూడా చేరుకోలేని పరిస్థితి వచ్చింది. అందులో లాస్ అండ్ డ్యామేజ్, అంటే నష్టపరిహారం గురించి కూడా చాలా ఆశలు ఉన్నాయి, కానీ నష్టపరిహారం మీద అయితే ఒక అడుగు కూడా ముందుకు పడలేదు. మరి రేపొద్దున ఇంకో వారంలో ఏ విధమైన పురోగతి ఉంటుందనేది ఈ అనుమానాలు కనపడుతున్నాయి. బహుశా కొంత నిరాశావాదం వచ్చేసింది కూడా ఇప్పటికే. అయితే COP27 ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఆయన ఆఫ్రికా కనుక ఆఫ్రికాతో వాళ్ళు కలిసి పనిచేస్తారు కనుక మరి COP27 ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఏమైనా కొంత ఇనిషియేటివ్ తీసుకొని దీని ఒక దిశకు తీసుకెళ్లే ప్రయత్నం చేస్తాడా లేదా అనేది కూడా కొందరు ఆశావాదం వ్యక్తం చేస్తున్నారు. చూడాలి ఏమవుతుంది. ఇక రెండవది, నిన్న అగ్రికల్చర్ అండ్ అడాప్టేషన్ డే అన్నారు. వ్యవసాయము, తర్వాత ఈ వాతావరణ మార్పులను తట్టుకునే చర్యల గురించి చర్చలు జరిగినాయి, వివిధ రకాల సమావేశాలు జరిగినాయి. అయితే ఈ కరోనివియా జాయింట్ వర్క్ ఆన్ అగ్రికల్చర్ అనేది ఇది యుఎన్ఎఫ్సిసిలో అంతర్భాగము. అయితే ఇందులో ప్రకృతి వ్యవసాయం గురించి కానీ, ప్రకృతికి అనుకూలమైన వ్యవసాయం గురించి ఇదివరకు ఉన్న టెక్స్ట్ని తీసేసి ఎక్కువగా క్లైమేట్ స్మార్ట్ అగ్రికల్చర్ మీద దృష్టి పెడుతున్నట్టు కనపడుతుంది. దీనివల్ల కూడా మున్ముందు వ్యవసాయం మీద ఒక అంగీకారం వచ్చే అవకాశం కనపడట్లేదు. కానీ రెండో వైపు ఈ కార్పొరేట్ లాబీ వల్ల వాళ్ళకు అనుకూలమైన విధానాల గురించి వాళ్ళ అనుకుంటున్న పరిష్కారాల మీద ఒక స్టేట్మెంట్లు వచ్చే అవకాశం ఉందని కూడా సివిల్ సొసైటీ అంటే స్వచ్ఛంద సంస్థలు భయపడుతున్నారు. అంటే మళ్ళీ క్లైమేట్ స్మార్ట్ అగ్రికల్చర్ పేరిట ఇప్పుడే ఏదైతే వాళ్ళు చేస్తున్న గుత్తాధిపత్యం పెత్తనాలు ఉన్నాయో వ్యవసాయం మీద అది కొనసాగుతుంది. అది కొనసాగే విధంగా వీళ్ళు మాట్లాడుతున్నారనే భయము ఆ స్వచ్ఛంద సంస్థ ప్రతినిధుల్లో కనపడింది. సో వ్యవసాయంలో కూడా పురోగతి లేదు, అడాప్టేషన్లో పురోగతి లేదు, మిటిగేషన్లో పురోగతి లేదు. ఈ వారాంతంకి చూసేటప్పటికి ఈ ప్రాథమిక విషయాలు ఎప్పుడు మీటింగ్ పెట్టుకోవాలి, ఆ మీటింగ్లో ఎవరు మాట్లాడాలి, ఆ మీటింగ్లో యొక్క ఒక ఉద్దేశం ఏంది, వీటన్నిటి మీద ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. ఇదివరకే ఇప్పుడు ఇది ఎప్పటి నుంచో మొదలైంది 1995 అంటే 1995 నుంచి ఈ కాప్ సమావేశాలు జరుగుతుంటే ఇప్పుడు ఇంకా ప్రాథమిక విషయాలు మాట్లాడుతున్నారంటే ఇది ఇక గత ఈ సమావేశాల్లో ఏం సాధించారు అనే ప్రశ్న కూడా ఇక్కడ వస్తుంది. ఇది కాక ఇప్పుడు కొత్తగా నిన్న మూడో పెద్ద యాక్టివిటీ ఏమైందంటే COP27లో అక్కడ స్వచ్ఛతా సంస్థలన్నీ కలిపి ఒక పెద్ద ధర్నా చేసినాయి. అక్కడ డెమాన్స్ట్రేషన్ నిర్వహించారు లోపట, ఇది UN వెన్యూ లోపట. బయట ఈజిప్ట్ రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వము పర్మిషన్ ఇవ్వలేదు కనుక వీళ్ళు లోపటనే బ్లూ జోన్లో ఒక ప్రదర్శన నిర్వహించడం జరిగింది. ఆ ప్రదర్శన ద్వారా ఈ డెలిగేట్స్ మీద ఒక ప్రజలకు అనుకూలమైన సానుకూలమైన విధానాలు నిర్ణయాల కొరకు ఒత్తిడి చేయడానికి ఈ ప్రదర్శన నిర్వహించారు. మరి వీళ్ళ ఒత్తిడి ఏ మేరకు పనిచేస్తుందో తెలియదు. ఇదేమో కనపడుతున్న ఒత్తిడి, కానీ కనపడని కార్పొరేట్ లాబింగ్ ఒత్తిడి కూడా ఉంది. వాళ్ళు కూడా అనేక సమావేశాలు నిర్వహించారు ఈ వారం రోజుల్లో. ప్రతి అంశం మీద కూడా వాళ్ళు సమావేశం నిర్వహించి వాళ్ళకు అనుకూలమైన ఆలోచనలను ముందుకు తెచ్చే ప్రయత్నం జరుగుతుంది. సో ఈ సంఘర్షణ అనేది కాప్ సమావేశాల్లో మనకి స్పష్టంగా కనపడుతుంది. ఈసారి ఇంకెక్కువ ఉంది. బహుశా వచ్చే వారము మరి ఎవరు ఎంత బలంగా ఉంటారు, మరి వాళ్ళు ఏ విధమైన సానుకూల అమలు ప్రణాళిక తీసుకొస్తారనేది మనము చూడాల్సిన పరిస్థితి ఉంది. అది వచ్చే వారం మళ్ళీ మంగళవారం నుంచి మళ్ళీ సమీక్ష చేస్తాం. ఆ రోజు నుంచి మళ్ళీ ఒక 16 నుంచి మళ్ళీ 19 వరకు, అంటే ఇంకో 4 రోజులు మనం ఈ సమీక్ష ప్రతిరోజు నిర్వహించుకుంటాం. ఇక్కడితోటి ముగిస్తున్నాను.